It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening, Zimbabwe, and welcome to it at ZiFM Sport on a Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. We've got the team here. At Mike Madoza, at Chris Midzi, at Gazaman40, that's Alois Bunjira, at Shonta Firenyika, at Mark Pozzo is the big man. He's not on the show today, but follow him nonetheless. And I'm at Barry Manandi. What can you look forward to? Well, on the home front, Dynamos Football Club head coach Tunderai Stanza Ndiraya says they're working on rebuilding the Glamour Boys brand and take the club back to its former glory days when football finally finds its way back. We'll hear the in-studio team and their thoughts on the Glamour Boys. Are they still the Glamour Boys? In international sports news, you can look forward to Serena Williams. Now, she could see plenty of fellow Americans in her US Open quest for a 24th career Grand Slam title, including Australian Open champion Sophia Kenin in a semi-final match.
Around the world in 60, we take off in Sydney, where it's do or die for the New South Wales Waratahs as Super Rugby AU competition reaches its penultimate round before the beginning of the playoffs. In Illinois, Hideki Matsuyama holds a one-shot lead after a tough scoring opening round at the BMW Championship. And in Florida, Michael Jordan has stepped up in talks between players and owners regarding the next steps for the NBA in the fight against racial injustice.
We'll then have the play of the day, Party Friday, Fire Friday, if you will. We'll get your party started. And then it's the beautiful game where the Brazilians, Bafanabe style, Masandawana, Cabo Yellow, call them what you will. They're back in the hunt in the South African Premiership, but their coach, Pitso Motsimane, is insisting that the title is still in Kaizer Chiefs' hands, despite the Soweto Giants falling to Sundowns yesterday evening, meaning that the clubs are now level on points. In Spain, Barcelona president Bartomeu wants to meet with Messi face-to-face to convince him to stay. In England, Jordan Henderson says Liverpool are hungry for more success and they have put last season's title win behind them ahead of the Community Shield clash against Arsenal at Wembley tomorrow. And in Italy, AC Milan and Zlatan Ibrahimovic have finally reached a full agreement over a new one-year deal.
Well, we don't quite have that season here because it's pretty much winter and summer, for it to be fair. But in other instances, this would be spring, wouldn't it? Well, we'll be heading into spring. Still, a good time to have ice cream. That's the name of the track on our Power Play today. Fire Fridays by Blackpink and Selena Gomez.
The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis. From Rufaro to Barberfield, Mandava to Nyamunga, all the perfect moments in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League come together on ZiFM Sport.
Well, we'll let you know of our social media handles at the top of the show. The show itself is a good one to follow. It's at ZiFM Sport to let you know exactly what's happening in the world of sport, and for us to have a bit of banter as to some of the things that we're talking about. Lionel Messi, does he stay or does he go? That's a topical issue right now. One of the most searched items on Google, would you believe, even ahead of COVID. That's how big this player is. Anyway, we'll talk about that in the beautiful game. But sport is soccer, not just sport. Soccer is front and center on the home front, and we're talking Dynamos Football Club. Now, their head coach, Tunderai Ndiraya, says they are working on rebuilding the Glamour Boys brand and take the club back to its former glory days when football finally finds its way back to the stadia. The Dynamos head coach said Dynamos is a big brand and it must be treated as such. However, some players that we had, especially last season, were not fit for the club. That's why we have taken on board youngsters who will grow with the club. we're working on rebuilding the Dynamos brand, and the crop of players we have, we believe they will grow with the brand and take Dimbare to its former glory days. Now, those former glory days, we must admit, had running battles with a team that wears green in Harare called Caps United. And a favorite son of Caps United is right here on the show. That's Alois Munjira. He tormented Dynamos in those former glory days. You think that is possible, what Munjira is talking about, Alois?
Yeah, look, Barry, everything is possible in Zimbabwean football. Harnessing the potential that Zimbabwe has got. I don't know if he means that glory days, the glory days of Glamour Boys, when you talk of brand, it just doesn't come from winning. So he is talking about when season reopens. No, branding, glory days are supposed to be doing like right now. What are they doing for their brand? And like how? Why should they wait for the season to go for them to get to glory days and the branding of the club? The brand of the club is not just winning the league. It has got a lot of things. We were talking about being off air. We were talking about Azam they haven't won anything in Tanzania, but already they're a big brand. Everyone is talking about Azam. What are they doing? So Dynamos should wait for the season to rebrand themselves and their brand big. They need doing it right now because their fans are here. The fans are not sleeping. They just come when the season kicks off. No, they are there. They are waiting. What are they doing? Even just to entertain their fans. What have Dynamos been doing to entertain their fans during this break? No Dynamos TV, no social media presence, nothing. What are their fans doing? Where are they right now? Some fans have gone, you see. So while I agree that he has got ambitions for the team to win things, yes, for any coach is actually a good thing. But when it comes to branding and being the glory days, you don't have to wait for the league to kick off because this is an ongoing exercise throughout the season, continuing, it's ongoing. Running the team, doing a lot of things.
Alois there, almost drawing the parallel between what Ndiraya is saying and versus possibly what he means. And in truth, he's talking about the Dynamos brand, and we can understand what he means by that. But in truth, perhaps, Chris, Twindra Ndiraya was referring more to the status, the on-field status of the Glamour Boys and trying to get on-field success. Because if he is talking about the brand, Alois is absolutely right. There's a big opportunity right now to start the walk towards that branding. But is Ndiraya the right man to be talking about the brand?
I think in some way, I think he definitely is, because I think as the head coach, you are tasked first of all with guiding your team. You're guiding your team in a way that even some of the marketing staff are not. So I think in terms of being one of the brand custodians, he definitely is, and he can speak about it. And in terms of on-field success, I think we definitely know that Dynamos is still one of the clubs that can possibly attract the kind of talent they need to get that on-field success. But it's just, we see fits and starts from Dynamos, where we see a little bit of organization, we see, a sponsor coming on board, but there's no consistent effort to get that success going on the field. And that comes from everything, including how the club itself is being handled. And when he talks about the brand and, being one of the big football brands don't exist in what you say. They don't exist in messages you put out. Brand is 100% perception, and it exists in the minds of the people you want to be responding to you. It exists in the mind of the consumer. So when he talks about the brand, he's talking about appealing to players, first and foremost, if it's that on-field success, to consumers. The brand custodians who work at Dynamos themselves, they need to be a very big part of it. So the on-field success, it's brilliant he's talking about it, but I hope he has the support of the entire structure at Dynamos if they want that on-field success, because we've seen it time and time again where the off-field things will affect on-field success. So it all ties in together, I think.
And in this sense, Mike, possibly the less we hear about off-field issues, the better. And right now, in truth, we haven't heard much about off-field issues at Dynamos. And indeed, those who are on the inside at Dynamos Football Club are telling us things are running efficiently. Salaries are being paid, which is a major bugbear for many clubs in Zimbabwe. There seems to be a slow walk towards stability. And stability possibly is the first brick in building that brand wall, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. There's a modicum of stability at Dynamos at the moment, but I think maybe it's very difficult for us to say definitively because of the current status of the game. There are no games being played. There is no sport in the country. And so the administration of the club right now is limited to doing exactly what you talked about, to dispensing salaries at the end of the month and making sure that players are paid. So there isn't much in terms of a demand on administrative ability at the moment at Dynamos. So it may be easy for us to say that Dynamos is enjoying a period of stability. Let's wait until football is being played. Let's wait until the games get underway. Let's wait until we get into the daily hurly-burly of football administration. Then we'll see whether the club is efficient and whether the club is professional. But just going back to the comments of Tonderai Ndiraya, I think the one thing that we need to do is separate the Dynamos brand from the brand of football. The brand of football is what we see on the field of play. And I think that is what Tonderai Ndiraya has got more of a control over, the style that Dynamos is able to put on display at Rufaro Stadium and the different stadia around the country. That's what Tonderai Ndiraya has got direct control over. When it comes to the brand of the football club, I think he's pretty much just like a brand ambassador, like what we see with your Jurgen Klopp. They represent the brand, but when it comes to making the strategic decisions about building the brand, I don't think they're part of that process. And let's be honest to ourselves, Tonderai Ndiraya is not a part of the process, if there is a process at all at Dynamos. Now, on-field success will definitely make the job easier off the field. So if Dynamos is playing a good brand of football, attractive football, they're winning games, they're lifting trophies, the stadiums are being packed out, it makes the job of those that are in the think tank and those that are in the marketing and commercial arm of the football club a lot easier. Theoretically, let's go back in history. Dynamos has enjoyed sustained periods of success. They're the country's most successful team. They're also the country's best supported club. But what have we seen historically? Have those in the marketing and commercial arm of the club been able to take advantage of those periods of success? Dynamos won 4 titles on the spin at the start of the previous decade under Callistus Pasua. But it was a period where they were mired in a lot of financial uncertainty. There were no marketing activities. There was nothing. They didn't build the brand of the football club. So it goes down to the caliber of the football administrators at Dynamos, that even though the team may play an attractive brand of football, even though the team might be lifting trophies and stadiums being packed out week in, week out, they just don't have the strategies in place to actually derive commercial benefit from that. And that is the big concern. So I question the caliber of administrator at Dynamos Football Club.
Well, right now we've heard noises about a commercial arm that has been created at the Glamour Boys. Dynamos now having a fully fledged commercial arm. They have a title sponsor who sits on the front of their shirt, a cigarette manufacturer that is taking care of all the financial needs at the club. Hopefully that can be expanded by that commercial division if it is to function correctly, as well as building that support base and getting bums in seats, as they call it, in the stadiums once we get back into stadiums, and if we get back into stadiums with fans there. There are lots of ifs, buts and maybes, but the one thing that we are sure of is that Tonderai Ndiraya wants to deliver, and that's a great desire and aspiration to have indeed. Upwards for the Glamour Boys. Let's see what everyone else is doing in the Premier League, and we'll keep you appraised as to any developments in the top tier of domestic football right here on ZiFM Sports. Coming up, some news on triathlon, swimming, which is a part of triathlon, as well as some golf news.
Hi, my name's Ryan Cairns, Sunshine Tour professional golfer, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Let's start with golf news, where Zimbabwe professional golfer Greg Bentley found the going tough in the African Bank Sunshine Tour Championship at Glendower Golf Club in Johannesburg, South Africa yesterday. Bentley, who made the cut in last week's Betway Championships, where he pocketed over 6,000 Rand, carded a 12 over par in the 2 rounds yesterday to miss the cut. An opening round of 10 over 82 was followed with a 2 over par 74. The South Africa-based professional was the only local player in the second tournament of the Sunshine qualifying tour since golf was given the green light to resume. In swimming news, Harare City Council have admitted foreign currency challenges remain an obstacle in their bid to ensure all the swimming pools under their management are in good shape. Council spokesperson Michael Chideme says the availability of resources determines what happens with regards to the provision of required chemicals at different facilities. Before the lockdown, there were concerns regarding the lack of maintenance of the facilities as well as the reliable supply of water. We wrap it up with triathlon news, where Triathlon Zimbabwe, TZ, are on schedule to commence their season despite the coronavirus pandemic after staging an incident-free duathlon event at Donnybrook course last weekend. TZ Secretary General Carol Pakenham commended athletes, parents and all stakeholders present for adhering to the COVID-19 regulations as they were building up to the season resumption. Since March, all sporting events have been banned by the government as a measure of trying to curb the spread of a novel virus. However, triathlon and the other low-risk or non-contact sporting disciplines were allowed to partially resume but must adhere to strict health guidelines.
Hi, this is Mike Madura, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
Time for some international sports news, and we go to tennis. The favorite lady of the show, Serena Williams. Well, she could see plenty of fellow Americans in a US Open quest for a 24th career Grand Slam title, including Australian Open champion Sofia Kenin in a semi-final match. Williams' march to a potential record-tying title won't be a cupcake ride early on, as the 38-year-old tennis legend from Compton gets stuck in a nasty quarter of the US Open draw. Williams' potential pathway to the final could see her face number 7 seed Madison Keys, number 22 Amanda Anisimova, and number 26 Sloane Stephens. Now let's hear from Serena Williams, who has admitted she's been finding it tough on court since her return from the COVID-19 break.
I don't know, to be honest. It's hard to play the way I've been playing, and to stay positive and to play 9 hours in a week is too much. I don't usually play like that, so it's all new for me. I gotta just start learning how to win points, big points. Like, it's literally 1 point since January. At 1 point I could have won so many more matches, so literally. So if I could just focus on how to just win that 1 point, that'd be better.
Z.
Let's just take a look at Serena Williams' results since she's made a comeback after that break. She lost 6-1, 6-4, 7-6 to Shelby Rogers in the quarterfinals of the top seed Open in Lexington. She then lost 5-7, 7-6, 6-1 to Maria Sakkari in the third round of the Western and Southern Open tournament this week. So she's hardly showing any form, Chris, and very few people, I think, in their right minds would put a flatter on her to grab that 24th Grand Slam.
Definitely. I think we've seen, even before the COVID-19 break, we've seen her come close to grabbing a 24th Grand Slam, but she still hasn't managed to do it. I think even when she came back from having her daughter, she just hasn't been the same Serena Williams. She's definitely not as dominant as she used to be. And you can see it when she plays some of these, the younger up-and-coming female tennis players. When she plays against them, there's no edge anymore. There was a degree of almost fear and dominance that came with playing against her. And these players are really showing up game in, game out, and just there's no more fear factor when it comes to Serena Williams, which is a lot of what she had going for her. I think at the moment as well, she doesn't have the benefit of having the crowds behind her cheering her on. She's one of those people, I think, who benefits a lot from that energy from the crowd, and she doesn't have that. And we've seen her crashing out a couple of times now. So that 24th Grand Slam is looking very loose at the moment.
Barry, is this not a mere function of age? She's 38 years old. Classically, tennis players especially female tennis players play their best tennis when they're in their 20s. If you go back previous generations, you could even say at an even younger age, the likes of Martina Hingis were dominating the sport when they were in their teens, 16, 17, 18. They were already recording Grand Slam wins. So she's 38 years old. Is this not a function, Barry, of age has finally caught up with Serena Williams? She just doesn't move as well anymore. She doesn't have the same power that she used to have. And therefore, the lesser players or the upcoming players now feel that they have a chance.
I never thought I'd hear the day when Mike Madoda says that Serena Williams isn't moving as well as she used to, but this is 2020, so
she still looks just as good, Barry.
Oh my God. Anything can happen. So, in truth, let's be fair on her. Serena hasn't had any right to be doing the things that she was doing at the age that she was, even when she was 33, 34, 35, and 36. But she was doing it because she was taking care of herself. And now I think, look, the law of diminishing returns applies in any scenario. And in truth, it has kicked in with Serena Williams. We're watching a swan song here. The sad thing is that we're seeing a faded glory as opposed to seeing her going out in a blaze of glory, which is truly sad for a player that we all love, a player who dominated the sport in such an immense way. You can almost draw parallels with Tiger Woods. I'm not going to, but you can almost do that because in truth, you can now see that it simply isn't going to happen. That next Grand Slam is unlikely at best and almost impossible at the very worst. So, yeah, age definitely has kicked in. The law of diminishing returns applies.
Do we not, Barry, give her enough credit for having played this long? Because I go back to legends of yesteryear, your Steffi Graf. Steffi Graf, who's a legend of the game, she retired when she was 30. Serena Williams, how many Grand Slams has she won post 30? She has been doing the business. And I think sometimes the world doesn't give her credit that she's 38 years old. She's still mixing it with the best. We've talked about her falling short on a couple of occasions, but she's still getting to finals. She's still getting to semifinals. She's still able to mix it with the best at the age of 38.
The tragedy is this, that it's hard for us to continue to focus on the positives and the great things that she's done in her career, and she's done lots. We don't give her enough credit. That is without question. But it's hard for us to continue the positivity when she's still playing. Let me explain that. Because as long as she continues to deliver bad results, we have to report on them. And the reason that as she delivers those bad results, it seems as if we're not appreciating the work that she's done in her career. But
no, Barry, you know what I'm actually questioning? I'm actually questioning your very description of those as bad results. Losing a final in a Grand Slam is not a bad result.
Sure.
How is it a bad result at the age of 38? There are players out there. Wait, there are players out there who would give their left arm
a body part
and a body part. I was going to mention one of the male variety, and I realized that the likes of Ash Barty and Simona Halep don't have those. So are we not then maybe, Chris? Let me hear from you, Chris. Are we then maybe not guilty of judging Serena Williams against her own achievements, against her accomplishments?
Definitely. I think that's the issue, is because Serena got to a certain level, we always compare her to her best. So when she gets to a semi-final and gets to a final but doesn't manage to get the Grand Slam, we think about her on the base, or report on her rather, on the basis that it's a bad result because previously Serena Williams would have been able to get that kind of a Grand Slam depending on whoever the competitor was. So I think we're guilty of comparing her to her highest self when she was at her absolute best and most dominant. That's who we compare her to. And so for as long as she continues to play, like Barry said, we're going to be comparing her to her best, not to another tennis player, not to the younger players ever, but just simply the fact that at one point she was unbeatable.
Alois, is that fair? You've played sport. Isn't the main objective just simply how you perform at a given time? And I want to bring it to football, which you have played. And I see similarities, for example, with Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, where if you ask people, they'll look back on this past season and say, hey, Lionel Messi was a failure. And yet, if you take a look at his own personal performances, they were actually at the very best in Europe. You know, he ranked number one in almost everything. Cristiano Ronaldo as well. People will say, he failed to guide Juventus to the Champions League final. Is it simply because we're just judging or guilty of judging them according to their best, not what the standard is at that given time?
No, Mike, I agree with you 100%. You know, I was listening to your conversation with Bay and Chris. You know, honestly speaking, there's a 38-year-old female who has played at the high level from when she was a teenager, and she has won titles. Can't we look at her age vis-a-vis performances and say, you know what? You know, I agree with you 100%. Being in the final at 38 years old, just being in the final, we are supposed to be going to town about it. But look at a 38-year-old in the final, just like we did with Roger Miller when he was in the final with Cameroon at the World Cup at age 42. This is what we are talking about. This is legendary. For me, it's actually legendary. Like you gave an example of Steffi Graf as well. Steffi Graf was one of my favorites. She retired at 30. You know, but she has gone on. She actually had a baby, and she is 38 years old, and she is in a Grand Slam final. I actually think that she should be applauded. We actually should look at the situation and say, you know what, with this kind of performance, with what happened in her life, how is the performance? Can we judge this performance? I still think that is taught. Yes, she has slowed down. This is actually, it's human. It's human. You slow down as you get older.
Okay, Bunj there with a different take, and I can't help but just think of Roger Federer, a guy who's just 1 year older than Serena Williams, and yet he is continually lauded and praised in the media for having a long career. He doesn't have to win Grand Slams. He gets to a semi-final, he gets to a final, and people say, oh, look at Roger Federer. He's competitive. He's the epitome of style and class. And yet when it comes to Serena Williams, he's aging gracefully, you know, and so forth. Yet when it comes to Serena Williams, it looks like the only acceptable standard for her is that she must win the Grand Slam. Anything else is failure. Well, let's go to the men's draw. World number one, Novak Djokovic's path to a 2020 US Open title could include a semi-final against Stefanos Tsitsipas or Alexander Zverev under the tournament draw that was unveiled on Thursday. Let's also give you an update on those that have withdrawn from the US Open. Rafael Nadal, the matador of Spain, he won't be there. Simona Halep gives it a skip, as does Ash Barty. Stan Wawrinka will not be there. Belinda Bencic will also not be there. Kei Nishikori will be missing, and the defending champion Bianca Andreescu will not be defending her title.
Hi, this is Benjamin Locke. I'm on the Zimbabwe Davis Cup team, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in Sydney, where it's do or die for the New South Wales Waratahs as Super Rugby AU reaches its penultimate round before the beginning of the playoffs. With this team playing their last game in the league phase of the competition, Rob Penny knows there's no way back for the Waratahs if they don't beat the Rebels at Leichhardt Oval tomorrow. We head over to Illinois, where Hideki Matsuyama holds a one-shot lead after a tough scoring opening round at the BMW Championship. Matsuyama birdied 2 of his last 3 holes to post a 3 under 67 at Olympia Fields and edge ahead of clubhouse leader Tyler Duncan on a day where only 3 players finished under par in the US Open style conditions. The Japanese player had reached the turnover par but followed back-to-back birdies from the first hole, playing putts from the 20 feet at the 7th and 65 at the 9th to move top of the leaderboard. We touched down in Florida, where Michael Jordan has stepped up in talks between players and owners regarding the next steps for the NBA in the fight against racial injustice. The 6-time NBA champion, the majority owner of the Charlotte Hornets, and chairman of the NBA's Labor Relations Committee, played a key role in helping fellow team owners gain insight and understanding of the changes players are calling for the NBA to make on a call on resuming the playoffs. A host of US sports games were postponed for a second straight day in a protest at the shooting of Jacob Blake. Blake, a black man, was shot 7 times in the back by police on Sunday in Kenosha, Wisconsin, near Milwaukee.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, chicken in midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. The beating drum. The roaring fans. Take a ride on the wild side with the Africa Report on ZiFM Sport.
Delivering on our promise to look south of the Limpopo in the ABSA Premier Soccer League, which is heating up in terms of the competitive stakes for the all-important championship. And Mamelodi Sundowns took a very important step last night. Now, their coach, Pitso Mosimane, insists the ABSA Premiership title is still in Kaizer Chiefs' hands despite moving level on points with the Soweto Giants at the top of the table. Gaston Serino struck in the 35th minute to hand Sundowns all 3 points in a potential title-deciding 6-pointer. But Chiefs still lead the standings by virtue of a +6 superior goal difference. Mosimane wanted his side to kill the game off earlier, which would have prevented a nervy second half in which they had to manage their slender 1-0 lead. Let's hear from the gaffer.
We are not top of the league. They're still there. So these guys have got points and have got the goals. So now we have to work against the goals, which is very difficult, you know. So it's still in their hands. It's not in our hands.
You did say this is a title influencer, not title
No,
decider.
influencer is not decided, because if you get too excited, if you don't understand how to win the championship, you will think, oh, Polokwane will win, oh, Baraka will win. It's not the case.
The voice there of Pitso Mosimane, the gaffer at Mamelodi Sundowns, who at one stage, around about December last year, Alois, were 10 points adrift. Well, at least Kaizer Chiefs led the standings by 10 points. And Mamelodi Sundowns have clawed back their way and are now level on points. Credits to Amasandawana.
Yeah, of course, Barry. You know, when you look at the situation, you know, it reminds me of the 1996 EPL Championship when Newcastle were way ahead and everybody had concluded that they were winning. But I don't know what is happening to Kaizer Chiefs. You know, after the break, they've just crumbled. And for Pitso Mosimane and Sundowns to crawl back and to close that gap. And yesterday's match obviously was the all-important match. You know, sometimes when you want to win the league, you have to beat the team that you are competing with, and that's what they did yesterday. And for me, as much as Kaizer Chiefs are still on top on goal difference, I still think that their momentum is so down, and Mamelodi Sundowns, their momentum is so high. It's 3 games to go, guys. And honestly speaking, what mentality is Kaizer Chiefs going to get into the next game in? And you look at Sundowns, what kind of mentality are they going, or energy are they going to get? So for me, it's advantage Sundowns. And well done to Coach Pitso Mosimane. You know, he's talking about he would have loved to close down the what. But we watched the game. You know, he was talking about the talent from the past. He packed the bus. He parked the bus as early as 35 minutes to go. He was already packed the bus. You saw the 2 substitutions that he made when Andile Jali came on in Mabul. He was already packing the bus. You could actually tell that he was content with that 1-0 lead. And for me, I think that was actually very good business.
And absolutely, that he parked the bus indeed. And Chris, in truth, it's almost a measure of what the man has learnt on the continent as Pitso Mosimane, where you get what you can what you get, and move on. And that's exactly what he did.
Definitely. We saw a bit of some changes from Kaizer Chiefs in that second half. They were really trying to switch things up and just basically get a goal. And you saw effort after effort. We saw Kamabilia coming on in that second half and trying to do something. The one opportunity where he could have managed to get a goal for them, he didn't manage to. I think it was just after 90 minutes, that header that he completely blew over the post. They tried, but I think because that defense was so solid, Pitso Mosimane came into this just wanting to grab the win. And he managed to do that by parking them. And as much as people call it parking the bus, what you need at this point is a win. And he managed to park that bus and ensure that, you know, now they're level on points. Kaizer Chiefs may have more goals than they do, but they're level on points. And that's something that now he can work towards beating.
And is this a sign of, I think, the difference in approach of the two managers, Mike? Because going into this match, both teams were patchy in terms of their form. They didn't have a run of form by any stretch of the imagination, because after the restart, both teams have struggled to find their form in empty stadiums and also in the bio bubble. But what you had then is Pitso Mosimane sticking to tried and tested, get the goal and make sure that you put 6 defenders, 4 midfielders essentially, and not attack.
6-3-2.
Yes, exactly. So come up with a formation. But then you had Ernst Middendorp, who had a struggling Kama Billiet, struggling to find form. He then tinkered with his lineup, brought in a debutant in a match as important as this. And so there was the risk of Middendorp and the safety of Mosimane, and the pragmatism of Mosimane seems to have prevailed.
I think, to be fair to Middendorp, I think people are looking for a scapegoat. And ever so often in South African football and in African football, we target the coach. I think there's been a failure by Kaizer Chiefs players to take responsibility. We cannot blame Ernst Middendorp for the shortcomings of his attackers. When big game players or big name players fail to perform on the grand stage in games where they're supposed to put in a shift and take their club home, you can't expect Middendorp to be the one to lace up his boots and take to the field. I can't see anything wrong with the way that Kaizer Chiefs set out their stall. I can't see anything wrong with the approach that was employed by Middendorp in this game. The team was set up correctly, and they were just very unfortunate that Mamelodi Sundowns were able to capitalize in the first half, in the 35th minute, and score that goal. And why? That's because Kaizer Chiefs was taking the game to Mamelodi Sundowns. They were trying to attack. They were trying to win the game. You can't blame him for that. You can't blame him for putting in a debutant at the expense of the likes of Kama Billiet, because Kama Billiet has not fired for months. So that is not a mistake. That is something that the coach needs to do. And I actually love the fact that he says, listen, to Matoro, go up front, go and try and get us a goal, because I'm not seeing anything that's coming out of our attackers. So tactical versatility, Barry, against Ernst Middendorp. He showed it in that game. He was able to see that I'm getting nothing out of Kambole. I'm getting nothing out of Billiard. I've got nothing out of Parker. What do I need to do? Send Matoro up front. And what did Matoro do? He got on the end of stuff. He was unlucky. They could have actually scored in those last 20-25 minutes. So for me, I look at the players and ask the question,
Ronald Koeman once did it with Holland.
Did the players do enough? The players that were expected to come to the fore. We spoke about Katsande. He's been quite decent and brilliant, but in this game, Katsande was nowhere to be found. He was absolutely woeful.
And he hold him off at halftime.
Yeah, and it can't be an age thing, because the guy that he was up against is a guy who's his age, Kekana. In fact, Kekana is older than Katsande. So it's not really, it was just a performance thing. Kaizer Chiefs wilted in the biggest game of the season. And now there are 3 games. They've got to make sure that they win all of them to get this title.
Well, if for anything, Ernst Middendorp showed that he's a very brave manager. Not only did he pick a debutant, he went ahead and put his centre half into the striking position.
He tried things.
He tried things. He certainly tried.
No, he did. I was happy he actually gave that boy a chance in debutant. Throw him in.
Yeah, and he certainly tried stuff. So Kaizer Chiefs have themselves to blame. When you have a 10-point cushion in December like they did over SuperSport United, and SuperSport at that stage was in second position, you can't blow that sort of a lead. And if they fail to get over the line here, there's going to be some very earnest questions, pardon the pun, asked at the end of the season. At the moment, Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns sitting on 53 points at the top of the ABSA Premiership. This is the way we like it. A title race that goes down to the wire. And if we take a look at the remaining matches that will decide this title, Kaizer Chiefs take on Bidvest on Sunday, then they take on Chippa United and Baroka, while Mamelodi Sundowns take on Polokwane City on Sunday, and then it's Baroka and Black Leopards. You got to think to yourself that Amasandawana have probably got the easier run in. As Aloy said, it's an advantage Mamelodi Sundowns. But if you ask Peter Mosivane, he'll tell you it's still in the hands of Kaizer Chiefs. Magnanimous or practical? You decide.
The league that makes football oh so beautiful, where artistry and strokes of genius are the order of any day, where the game is played with a smile and the little master creates his magic.
It's Lionel Messi!
All the news from the Spanish La Liga on ZiFM Sport.
The goal the world wants it!
From South Africa, we go to Spain, where the rest of the football world is camped out at the moment. It's the biggest transfer story in the history of the game. And an update for you out of Catalonia is that FC Barcelona president Bartomeu wants to meet with Lionel Messi face-to-face to convince him to stay. Now, according to TV3, Bartomeu is willing to step down as Barca president if Lionel Messi publicly agrees to stay at the club, despite the consensus in the media about the fact that Messi's decision to leave the Catalan club is irreversible. Marcelo Bechler, the journalist who was the first to report about the Argentine's departure, said Leo Messi could stay in Barcelona because he doesn't want his children to experience the same thing that he went through when he moved from Rosario to Barcelona. So he may not change clubs for his family. There are obviously a lot of considerations, Chris, that players make when they are making these moves. And for Lionel Messi, who's been staying in the city of Barcelona from the age of 12, and of course, he had his wife move over from Argentina. They've grown up together, got married together, had a family together. That's all they know, Barcelona as a family. It's a big decision, isn't it, he's making, even without considering the football side of things, just at a personal level and a family level.
Definitely. It's definitely a big decision, especially if you look at, he's got 3 kids. So it involves uprooting them from everything they know. I'm pretty sure his wife has her interests in Barcelona as well. And they've essentially built their lives in this city. From the age of 12 is not a short amount of time. And being able to, at his age, uproot yourself and move to another part of the continent, to another country, is an incredibly tough decision for anyone to make, much less a football player who's had a certain way of life. And I think that's also, I think what contributes to Lionel Messi is having that stability and consistency in his life. There's certain things that as a football player you then don't think about. There's not very much off field that you have to think about because of that consistency. Now when you have to move and uproot an entire family, it's a completely different discussion. So it's a lot to consider financially as well. Could he be making more money? Could he be in a different
make
place?
more money? He certainly will make more money.
Is the money worth compared to
does
his
he
current
need it?
setup
Yes.
and his current life?
Yeah.
Does he need it? So is the inconvenience worth it? And in this situation for Messi, I don't think so.
Barry, there's lots of talk around Manchester City that he's had a conversation with Pep Guardiola, etc. And of course, but I think Chris makes a fine point that there's a cost or a price to be paid if you're going to uproot your entire family and your entire family structure to a different country with a different culture. And England is a different culture to Spain, to Argentina, to the continent. Now, whereas some people would see it as, oh, you know what, I would want that for my kids, you know, but this is not exactly London. This is Manchester. This is out in the northwest.
Sure. I think there are various considerations, and the first one, I think the primary one, which is ultimately what made him write the letter and request for a transfer, is how unhappy he is at Barcelona. Not in Barcelona. He's happy in the city. Everything works. But at Barcelona, the football club. If his unhappiness is at a level whereby he's no longer enjoying his craft, then certainly I think there becomes a compelling case for him to move. Then kicks in the next arguments about, does he want to move and uproot his life? I think one of the main considerations, and probably used by Pep Guardiola as part of the argument, must have been the fact that it's going to be a short-term contract, no matter where he goes. He's a little bit long in the tooth. I think Lionel Messi has probably got another 2-3 years at the top level. So if he signs a 3-year contract with any club, it's 3 years of his life and in Barca. So can he do that in Manchester, even though, and that sounds a bit derisory about Manchester as a city, but nonetheless, I think those that know what we mean when we say that even though it's in Manchester, he'll certainly be willing to abide by those 3 years and then go back to Barcelona or even back to Argentina to finish off his life. So he's got to make those considerations. So the first one is, how unhappy is he? The answer to that, I think, will answer a lot of questions.
Alois, it's not just Pep Guardiola that we hear is talking to him. There's also reports that Neymar is trying to persuade his club, PSG, the owners, to get Lionel Messi on board because he feels, you know what, this is the greatest chance that they've got to win the Champions League. It's almost a similar sentiment with Man City as well, who are also arguing the same thing, that if we bring Lionel Messi into the team, he's going to drive us to a Champions League title.
Yeah, Mike, I think it's the same. Manchester City, PSG, but we had that show where we talked about where I would love him to go. I would prefer him to go to PSG, and then they can actually win the league. They've got the money to do that. But my concern, I'm not concerned about family being uprooted. He doesn't have to uproot his family. Like Barry said, it could be maybe maximum 3 years. Europe travel is very simple. It's easy. You can actually go back to Spain every day after training. We heard about Marcel this day. He was playing for Chelsea and he was playing in Paris. He was going to Paris every day. But he comes to training in London and goes back to Paris. So
to be fair,
Messi can do this. He can stay in Barcelona with his whole family in Barcelona and just chill. I just hope that he just get that freedom to do what he wants.
Yeah, to be fair, I think maybe the London-Paris one is a lot easier because, you're just going on the train, and I think it's like a one and a half hour train. Yeah, I think now for Messi, I think to be doing a 3-hour flight every day.
No, he's got a private jet, man. Messi should have a private jet. He's a billionaire.
But still,
he's got a private jet, Mike. He should have a private jet.
It's still a 3-hour flight, even on a private jet. You're still gonna be doing 3 hours to and another 3 hours fro. So it may be difficult.
It's not much. 3 hours is okay.
6 hours on the plane every day.
No, I'm talking. No, it's not like every day. You can just maybe twice a week go back home. I'm talking about in a situation where he doesn't have to uproot his family.
Okay,
from Barcelona.
He looks like a family man, though. When you look at him, he looks like a family man. Even when you follow him on social media, when you take a look, he seems like he's very close to his wife, very close to his kids. He's a guy who goes from training back home to the family. And so, considerations of maybe spending 2 years away from the family, I think that may be tough. But hey, would love to continue with this conversation. And why don't we hear your thoughts on Twitter at ZFM Sport?
Heading into the Premier League, Jordan Henderson says Liverpool are hungry for more success and they have put last season's title win behind them. Liverpool finished 18 points clear of Manchester City and amassed 99 points as they won their first title after 30 years. Liverpool are now focused on tomorrow's Community Shield against Arsenal before their first game of the new Premier League campaign against Leeds on the 12th of September. Barry, Liverpool having a bit of a shaky end there after they managed to get the title. It was a little bit shaky for them. And in the last meeting with Arsenal actually managed to win against them. Was it a fluke or do you see this happening again?
No, it's just football. You get one of 3 results, win, lose or draw. I do foresee Liverpool wanting to start strong or restart strong. So I think they're going to go all out, try and win this the Community Shield so that it sets the right tone going into the season, and then hopefully pick up from a very tricky first encounter against Leeds, well coached against by Marcelo Bielsa. So it's no gimme. So it's a tough start to the new season, but I think if there's a team that's ready for it, it's Liverpool. We have to go. Have a fantastic weekend, Zimbabwe. That's all we have time for. We'll catch you on Monday. We'll review the Community Shield and other breaking stories coming out of the world of sport. Come on, Kaizer Chiefs. Rise, Kosi, rise. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manande, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.